on a Tuesday. So appreciate you coming on from where you are, wherever you are in the world. I'm sure Mo's calling in from Utah, and I don't know who else we've got. We've got Nigeria on the call. We've got, I think, probably Australia on the call, and really looking forward to having a good discussion today. Very much around the building of a mastermind group. As you well know, the things that we always talk about at the beginning, but you all know all of this already. So if you haven't got your e-colors in your little video, we'd appreciate it just so we can, if there needs to be an e-colors conversation, that's easier to do. And especially now there aren't a whole load of us, I very much want this to be a conversation, rather than the chat. So if we can actually talk through some of the things today, I think that would be very useful. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who will listen to this after. I never have got comfortable with this listen back. I'm not even sure if that's a proper expression, but there will be people who will listen to this later on. And first of all, I want to thank Mark. As you well know, he's the one that has been masterminding all of this. And today, he and Emma are actually in Portugal. Emma has a huge event down there for about 600 people. And Mark is actually down there, to help Emma. I think going to do some of the DJing as well. No doubt make a few contacts along the way. And then they're going to go and have a little bit of a break. So with him not being running this session today, um, I actually thought, Paul and I, just like subs on the bench, we'll come in and help for the day. And I couldn't help but smile. I just literally grabbed this picture off the internet yesterday. Just put substitutes bench. You can see in that left hand corner. And then I hadn't actually looked. I just put Paul red green, Lewis yellow red, and I was just going to leave it at that. And then I noticed the red green is actually keeping away from the yellow red. Doesn't like to be hugged. Quite coincidental, but I thought there's probably a little lesson in there somewhere. Hey Paul, before I go any further, you want to say something about that? And make sure Paul's here. Paul, you catch what I said?
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't get the mute button off.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great picture, and it just outlines as red greens. We don't like a lot of hugging.
So yeah, it was completely coincidental, but such is life. But anyhow, so Paul and I are very much going to share this because at the end of the day, and I'm not, to be honest, I'm not quite sure. Maybe Paul, you could tell us, but some of the people on this call may already be on the Money Remixed uh, group, the mastermind group. And what we are going to do is Paul's going to show you an example some way through this discussion today about how that actually works. So one of the things I wanted to just kind of touch on, I mean, for those of you who've been, kind of with us from the beginning, there's been this continual build around starting with self and team awareness around who we are from an e-commerce perspective, the attitude of gratitude. And, I've heard several of you talk through at times what you've talked more and more about the benefit of showing gratitude, even if it doesn't come naturally, and then just building on from there. And like I say, what we're really going to talk today is around this whole business um, of a really understanding the benefits of having these kind of mastermind groups and how that actually works. Because ideally, I think some of you, as you build your own organizations going forward, or your own cohort, if you like, you too may want to think about this, and we'll kind of go through today of how it actually works. I think that's important. I had the privilege on Friday last of being speaking to the Irish Rail organization over in Portlaoise, near Dublin, and it was actually the discussion was aimed at the annual safety award winners that had been elected. But the reason I wanted to bring this back is there were several conversations while we were there, including with their CEO, of you know why do you do what you do? And the common answer I kept hearing was, well, I do what I do because I want to make a difference, or I want to do something differently. So I thought what would be interesting today, again, I think it leads very nicely into the mastermind conversation. Pick either of those. And the question for you is, what difference are you trying to make? And whatever that is it going as well as you would like? So whoever would like to go first, feel free.
Would you like me to? I can go first, Lewis. It's Kerry. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Kerry, are we going to see you?
Yeah, I'm in the car, so I went off camera. I can if you want
Okay,
me
all right.
to.
Stay focused on. No, no.
I'm
You
not
stay
driving,
focused.
don't worry. I'm not
Okay,
driving.
okay.
There you go. I'll go on camera. There you go. You can see me in my car. So yeah, so what difference are you trying to make? So I guess for me, my ambition, my goal from a not just from a business perspective, but just in life generally, is to show people how they can leverage themselves, their mind, their body, and more breath. Obviously, for me as a breathwork instructor, is really important. And of course, more recently, their personality style. You know, just who they are to better manage their health, whether that be mentally, emotionally, or physically. A real advocate of proactively being able to depend upon, I guess, the tools you have within you to prevent illness, and to help overcome illness. I still think we are massively losing the battle against, I'm just going to use the word quite loosely, stress. And obviously, I'm talking about negative stress because it's not all bad for us. So for me, that's really what I want. I want to make a difference in the way of showing people that there's so much they can do themselves.
Excellent. And I think I know the answer because you and I have had some chats, but is it going as well as you would like?
It's slower than I would like because, you know, just of certain circumstances, but it's building. What I try to do, in addition to through my business and make a difference in this space, is I I commit to coaching one person, across a period of time until they're finished working with me, which is normally 3 months or so, who may be struggling terribly. Like, for example, I have a client who has terminal cancer and is working with me to manage the stress and anxiety of the situation. So I try to make a difference, I guess, in small ways like that, you know, not at a macro level, while I can as the business is building. I think it's important to share what you've got to help people.
Absolutely.
Obviously, not overcommitting in that. Let me call it free space. Let's use that term. As a yellow, top color yellow, I know that I can jump in and help people too much and too quickly. So I do measure that now.
Thank you. And much appreciated, Kerry. And thanks for the update last night. I've sent that on to Paul and Mark. So
You're
I think
welcome.
we're in good shape.
Good,
Thank you.
good.
So who else would like to share? So again, the question is, you know, what difference are you trying to make? And whatever that difference is you're trying to make, you know, is it going the way that you would like?
I think Lewis, for me is, and you know, we say often, you know, if someone hasn't done their e-colors, is don't try and second guess, but trying to be more sensitive around, and it goes even from conversations to emails to any kind of communication, is trying to be a little bit more sensitive around perhaps how that individual or persons are doing at that time, how they come across, their feelings, you know, personality, and previously being a red over yellow, I would probably be pretty guilty of bunching everyone in the same bucket, you know, and everyone gets treated the same whether they like it or not. We're now I try to be and trying to hit that pause button just to, you know, what's the consequence of my words, how people will react or feel towards those, or the text of an email. So trying to be a little bit more humane, a little bit more on my yellow side rather than the red. I do see a difference. Like Kerry, sometimes it's kind of peaks and troughs at times, isn't it, Kerry? I would think.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, which is good because you've got to look at those peaks instead of the troughs. But you do get a sense definitely of people communicating more and definitely wanting to talk to you and I think the more open and transparent I can become, then you get that feedback. You get the same kind of feedback from others, especially people who could be a top color red.
Yeah, appreciated. Thank you, Angela. I see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I could almost repeat what Kerry's just said, really, in terms of educate and empower people to manage their health better. But interestingly, I've had a few things in the last week that have made me question. It's going so well. It's going too well. I've attracted a lot of business. There's lots of people that have been recommended by others that I've seen. So the kinesiology side is going incredibly well. But I was really ill last week. I had the rotten flu. And what difference am I trying to make? I think I need to focus more on me and practice what I preach, because I had another interesting message from the universe yesterday. I saw a client and she's training to be a Feng Shui consultant. And she looked at my certificates that I've got in my healing room behind me. And she said, "Why have you put all your certificates in that corner?" She said, "Because that is about love, self-love in that corner. Why haven't you put them on the career ambition wall?" And it really made me stop and think, because I've devoted my life to helping others, and probably at the expense of myself. So what difference am I trying to make? I think I need to focus on practicing what I speak about, really, with others. So, and how is that going? It's going well this week because I've had some signs from the universe and I've listened.
Oh, that's great. And long may it last, Angela.
Yeah, indeed.
Excellent, excellent. Somebody else? What a difference you're trying to make?
Well, if I can speak up, Lewis, I remember a conversation we had, it's been a few years ago now, when we were all in Thailand together with the team we had there. And we had a similar conversation to this, and I think you asked us, why do we do what we do? And you were a little disappointed in us because nobody had put down that we want to help others. And I've thought about that over the years since then. And I realize that is really what I want to do, is help individuals and organizations to be more effective, and, as the Equilibria tagline says, to realize our potential, to help other people realize their potential. And like Angela was saying, I realized that a lot of that is I need to be better at being me. It's just like when I do a workshop, I always ask people if they've ever given that advice to someone else, to just be yourself when they're in a tough situation. And everybody raises their hand and says, "Yeah, people have told me that, and I've told other people that, just be yourself." And I say, well, no, you have to be your best self, because chances are you got yourself in a bind because you were being yourself, but you weren't being your best self. So that's what I'm trying to do, is learning how to be my best self, and then in turn trying to help others do the same. And as far as
Just a matter of interest, what time is it now where you are?
it is 2:14 a.m. So.
Amazing. We certainly appreciate you joining us. And Merle, we got a lot to talk about as time goes on here. Thank you. Somebody else like to talk a little bit about what difference they're trying to make? And maybe it's a wrong assumption, but from what I'm hearing, and this is something I picked up again last week, is, most people tell me they're trying to make a difference in some form or other. Might change dramatically, to who is being impacted by it, but most people get to a point in their life. Britt Lee, you're on.
Hi. I've worked a long journey in personal development. I was blessed very early on in my career to be surrounded by leaders that very much had the same mindset as you, Lewis, in a corporation, a massive company. They focused and they did e-colors with us, and they ran personal development, leadership, team dynamic. And I am a Christian, and I strongly believe that the Lord has a massive purpose for you in your life and to help you grow into the fullest of your potential. So I was very blessed to have those people around me. And I think personally, I just realized, just how I was blessed with those individuals around me. I want to bless people in my sphere of influence. And so for me, it is to empower and equip young ladies just in where they are at, especially teenagers and young adult ladies. You see, they get overwhelmed with life, with all the big decisions of starting families or what to study or a boy that they like or whatever it may be. But yeah, I meet one-on-one with them, and I just pray with them, and I just hear them out, and it's kind of like an accountability partner. And then yeah, I am looking to get certified as a practitioner. So that, because I have noticed the value of even just how quickly misunderstandings and small offenses can happen in relationships, and what a beautiful tool e-colors is to be able to just bring awareness in those areas in self and in a dynamic of any relationship, whether it be personal or business.
Excellent, Britley. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Anybody else? Andy, I can't believe. Oh, here we go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
loud and clear.
I actually, in all honesty, I completely forgot about this meeting, so I parachuted in about 10 minutes ago, so you have to forgive me. I missed the very start, so I can only see the slide that's on now. What difference are you trying to make? And I'll relate that to my own personal goals, was to inspire people and to be inspired by other people as well. I have a large social network that I've built up over the years through my music connections, and I am constantly told by people how much my words do inspire them and gives them pause for thought. And following on from what Britley just said, the e-colors just fell neatly into what I now understand to be my life's purpose, to better understand myself and how I can communicate better with other people, to share that message and in a language that they understand. So I'm just trying to spread positivity, spread the word of e-colors as well, and at the same time learn from other people. I've always understood that every day is a school day, and I'm never too arrogant to be taught by anybody. I'm very accomplished in the music industry, but I'm never too proud to be told new things. And so I think that's just basically what I'm trying to get to, is the fact that I'm always amazed when I see people that I haven't seen for a while who will comment on things that I've said recently on my reels and the things that I do. So we're all always making an impact, whether we realize it or not. I think that's important for people to be aware of. I think that comes on the back of what I just heard Scott finishing off saying.
Excellent. Thank you. And I see Jason's just joined us recently. So Jason, just to put this in perspective for you, as you know, I was over at the same folks last Friday that you spoke to a few weeks ago with Irish Rail. And a lot of the discussion after the actual speech was around, what a difference you make. And I'm thinking here about, what difference are we all trying to make? And whatever that difference is, how's it going? Is it going the way you would like? So Jason, for sure, you are making a difference. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And I just wonder where you're at with this.
Yeah, a bit like Andy. I was joining that, just been on another meeting. Yeah, I echo a lot of what Andy said. Actually, it was like a lot of my words. I've been speaking now for 16 years, and when I first started, I must admit, people don't know, I fell off an building sites. My initial story for probably a decade was, don't be like me. Don't have an accent. Don't do what I did. And I used to be really quite not aggressive, but really, really, trying to upset people. So don't be like me. Look how bad my life is. And I've changed completely. I say to people, I'm now grateful for my wheelchair. It's given me the most amazing life, and I wish it hadn't happened, obviously. Well, it did. And the bit I can't change is I can't change it for me that my accident didn't happen. But by sharing my story, hopefully I can inspire other people to think about safety. But now my focus is so much on the well-being part. I've changed my life in the last 7 years. And people sometimes say, what do you mean, be like you? You're in a wheelchair. But be like me how I live. I love my life. I love every moment. I'm grateful for every moment, every opportunity. And like I said, I was in Ireland for the company you went to a few weeks ago. I was in Spain last couple of weeks ago, speaking for Menzies. I'm going to Rwanda next month for a tour. It's just, life is what you make it, and that's it for me now. Obviously I'm still in the safety arena for a lot of the work that I get, but it's not about that anymore. It's trying to inspire people to be like me and live every day, live every moment.
Excellent, excellent. So just before we move on, is there anybody else who wants to say something?
Yeah,
No?
Lewis. Yeah, for myself, it's very much around my difference is all around my 8 purposes in life that we mentioned in Money Remixed, and it's very much about providing direction for myself and being able to gauge the results. As a red green, we love results, so that's very much what my purposes are all around.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so again, I think we've talked a little bit about this in a previous session, and a lot of it is around coming out of this book that Napoleon Hill wrote years ago, where he talks about the benefit of having this mastermind principle. And basically, it's just a question of getting 2 or more people together that tend to work harmoniously, or at least their minds are working harmoniously. They may not always agree with each other, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the most important thing is they have a common goal. So again, as each of you in your own sphere of influence, becoming a practitioner, you're already doing a lot of effort. Building your own mastermind group, if you like, is really important. And so what we wanted to do today was to give you basically some things to be thinking about, and how to do it, and what works and what doesn't work. So again, if you're just looking at the slide here, there's some kind of universal qualities that really make sure that the group is effective, is supportive, and goal-oriented. So I'm going to bring these up one at a time. And what I'd like to do is let's have a quick discussion between whoever wants to speak up about why these are important. And I would suggest that you actually write these down. There's 10 things going to come up. And the first one is trust and openness. So if you were forming a mastermind group, I guess the first question would be how do you ensure that you can build trust and openness almost from the outset? Anybody got any ideas about how they would do that?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk on that. I think to listen to what people are hoping to achieve from the group, and right from the off, just decide what the purpose of the group is and what the vision is for the group, and that everybody has an opportunity to talk about what their thoughts are around that.
Absolutely, Angela. And then again, this is where you would typically really want to making sure that you have this environment of psychological safety where people could say whatever on their mind without any ridicule or retribution or anything like that. Because you will have people who disagree, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as it's done in a respectful manner. How do you build trust?
I think starting off with some guiding principles. I think Andy just popped up on screen actually as I said this about ethics as well at the start. I think making sure everyone's agreeing what they should be for the safety of the group, and making sure it's a safe space perspective, and demonstrating it right by your actions rather than just what's in the written word.
Okay, good. So again,
I would say
sorry.
building trust. Oh, sorry, Lewis.
No, go ahead, Andy.
I would say building trust is by practicing what you preach, as it
Yeah.
were. If I'm in a group, I'm in very few groups. I have a huge network of friends, but I'm in very little WhatsApp groups, for example, and messenger groups, because they can be very toxic at times, and there's a sort of a bitchy nature. So just by being someone that what's the word I'm looking for? A rumor will stop dead when it reaches me, because I'm not one that's going to spread it. And I think that people are aware of that. And so having that kind of perception from others is a key part.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, Jason just wrote, trust can take a long time to win and can be lost in an instant. I remember we were doing some work in Holland years ago, and I think I can't say it in Dutch, but in English it translates to trust walks in and rides out on a horse. So it takes a lot longer to build it than it does to lose it. But Merle, yeah, be the first to trust others. So somebody has to start the ball rolling. Okay, number 2, again, if you're thinking about building this group, if you like, is commitment. And I think this is an interesting one, because I see lots of times where people will say they're committed to something because either everybody else seems to be saying it, or they don't want to be like the odd one out. But my question would be, how do you actually build commitment for people to just like you all do? You regularly come to the meetings. This has been going on for weeks. You engage actively. You contribute to the group's success. What does it take for you to be committed?
To understand the purpose of why I'm here, and is it helping me achieve that purpose?
Great, that's one way of looking at it. Anybody else?
It's a commitment to others as well as to yourself. So, I come on these regularly because I constantly learn, but also it's about what can I do to help others learn. So there is that accountability, I think, if you're going to join a group like this.
Yeah, very much so. Good. The next one, and several of you just said it, and Andy, I think you led the way there. Clear purpose and goal. So there really does need to be, the mastermind group really does not need to have a clear focus. So again, if you put this in the context of when you form your mastermind group, what is the purpose and what are the goals? And the goals need to be agreed by everybody. It's something that, if you're not all in, then it's probably not going to work. So has anybody got a good example of where they have been part of a group where it was crystal clear what the purpose was and how everybody got behind it?
This one.
I think this is Angela, I don't disagree with you.
I've been in many in the NHS that probably haven't had that same clear purpose and goals. So I've seen many examples of where it hasn't gone well. But yeah, this is a good example.
Excellent. Mr. Mackay, Scott Mackay, have you seen any of that kind of attitude in your line of work?
Yeah, we've kind of got a lot of the groups that you'll sit in at a start, and I'll be honest, probably like Angela, I've probably been involved in more that haven't had a kind of purpose and goals. But just sort of jumping back to number 2, I know myself that from the kind of start, maybe going 8 months or so back, I was involved in quite a lot of these meetings, so kind of lost my way in it a wee bit, so probably wasn't sort of committed. To the point that a lot of the others were, but you've just sort of got to get back in, jump back in the bus and try and get back into it. And even sort of being here the first 20 minutes, half an hour, it's been sort of great listening to others. So looking forward to kind of moving forward again.
Excellent. Welcome back. So the next one, Britt Lee.
Hi, sorry, I just wanted to mention, like, I think the best example that comes to mind with yeah, where we were in team and there was a clear purpose and goal was when I was in corporate and I was the event manager. We were a company that was very aware of e-colors, and I had to manage it and put the right people in the right roles. And I just remember how e-colors was very top of mind for me in terms of who played what role at that event. I knew exactly who to put in the MC role. I needed to find a yellow to put at the door to greet the people. You know, it was evident who wanted to be the decor team and stay in the background, and who wanted to be the action people that was on the floor and getting things done and the task orientated. And then obviously putting someone like a red or a yellow behind the microphone who was quite methodical to lead the event and MC the event. So once we knew what the goal was, what we wanted to achieve as a team, and with the understanding of e-colors, it was a flawless event.
Good to hear, and I'm sure there's some perspectives on that we can discuss. You know, the next one is mutual respect. And again, if you're going to have a functioning mastermind group, obviously very, very important to make sure that there's mutual respect between everybody and respect each other's ideas and experiences, because you know, if you're going to get people from different aspects of life, they may see the things through a different lens, but worth understanding them. I'm going to move on because I want to get to this one. So willingness to learn and share knowledge. So how does that play out in any of the groups you've been to? Do you feel that people are willing to learn, and when they're talking about sharing knowledge, that typically may not come straight away? And this may be an example here, Paul, where you just want to chip in from what you're seeing in the Money Remixed Mastermind group. Are you seeing a kind of equitable amount of knowledge being passed around, or is it tending to come from certain people?
I would think there's a lot of sharing happening. Obviously, we have a 45-minute call every Friday, but there's a lot of discussions happen in that call, and then we tend to share a lot of things on the WhatsApp group. You know, sharing different points of views, ideas, and that type of stuff. I would say there's probably some people contribute more than others, but I wouldn't say there's any individuals that are not contributing. Because, you know, again, it's a very small group.
Right. And we're gonna talk about the ideal size of a group here in a few minutes. The next one, which is important, of course, is this. I say, of course, I mean, diversity of thought is fundamental, especially when you think about it from an e-colors perspective. And you've only got to look at the people on this, you know, on this chat here, even though there's quite a few. As you've got some people who are predominantly red, you've got some who are predominantly yellow, you've got some who are predominantly green, etc. And so having that diversity of thought is always going to be important, and understanding when they do express their ideas, typically it's going to, you know, there'll be a part of it which comes through that lens. So any thoughts on this? Are any of you, as you're thinking through who could I have in my mastermind group, are you actually thinking about it from a personality perspective? Scott, I noticed you just said something here on the chat. What are you thinking?
You know, it's something I haven't done intentionally. When I look at mastermind groups, I do have a couple of groups that we chat and look at different stuff. But funny enough, it hasn't been with intention of having a mastermind group and kind of structuring through those, you know, one to six that you already have down there. But I think it's something a lot of people do, maybe in different forms. But yeah,
they may not have thought about it through the lens of, but it,
yeah,
you know, but it certainly makes sense as you as you go through this.
yeah.
The next one is accountability, which kind of ties in with the, you know, when we're talking about commitment, which in our essential leadership cycle, we've got both next to each other. So people won't even feel like they need to be accountable if they don't see, you know, a good amount of commitment. So if you're in a group, and I'd be interested to hear from anybody who's actually had this experience, how do you hold yourself and others accountable to keep the group going and be proactive and motivated?
It would surely have to be participation, wouldn't it?
I would say that's probably part of it. Let me just, if you look at it in terms of a football team or sports team, I'm guessing the most successful have a range of personalities. If you're not pulling your weight, a captain should pull you up, for example. Interesting. So again, we're going to talk a little bit about when you are thinking about this in terms of a mastermind group, does there need to be a leader? And that's something I think probably worth discussing. Number 8 is a supportive environment. So obviously, if people don't feel that the group actually provides support for each other and their thoughts and the way that they are able to express the thoughts, they're probably not going to hang in there for long. So it's really creating this environment of encouragement and support. Who have we not heard from yet? Let's see if anybody's got a perspective on this. Penny, nice to see you. Penny, have you ever delved into being involved in what we would call a mastermind group?
When we were doing Life Remix, we were jumping in and out, and we were doing a lot with Mark when we were being coached, and there was group things that we did there. I think we all had the same goal, as in we were all part of the Life Remixed coaching group. So I think that's what pulled us together. And obviously we were learning about e-colors as well. And it was all obviously from a red perspective. I was given the big picture. So I felt, oh, it was exciting. It was new, and all these new people with all these, different ways of, like you say, seeing things. And it's made me aware, and it's also made me listen to those that don't have such a big voice as mine, and be supportive to them for them to get their point across. So maybe a blue, greens. My daughter's green. She has really helped with me. She'll say, "Can I have it in green, mum, please?" So I could give her detail. Husband's going, "Just give me the big picture." So,
Excellent.
That's supportive environment, and that's become for us at home a more supportive environment. So we've pulled that out of this sort of mastermind into our actual own lives.
Right. Good. That's really nice to hear. And again, I just want to go back to what Britt Lee's saying. And Britt Lee, I'm sorry I didn't recognize that you were from South Africa at the beginning. My apologies. So she talks about accountability partner as well as having trust in someone to speak into your life. Absolutely. And from my experience, I think having an accountability and thinking partner is a great thing to be thinking about. And when you've got a small group in a mastermind group, then you've got thinking partners. You can really bounce stuff off just because they may not think the same way as you. The next one of the 9 out of the 10 is focus on solutions and not problems. It's easy to fall into the trap of dwelling on, the challenges, but a successful mastermind group really is looking for solutions. Let me say, not say how many, but who on this call tends to immediately go, here's the solution to your problem? Anybody?
I would have done in the past.
So, Andy, I think you speak for most people who are top color red.
Yeah. Most definitely would have in the past, and I'm very conscious of not telling anymore. And I made a post the other day using the word consider. I think it's a very good word to offer somebody to consider these options and offer them alternatives rather than, well, this is how it should be done.
Right. I think you and I had this call when I was with Mark the other day. Actually, one of the coaching organization, Landmark, they teach you to say consider. So just consider how often you use the word consider.
So that's a good thing, right? To use the word consider is good.
Occasionally.
Not too,
Okay.
not too much. Okay.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it's the right time to ask here within this list, but when you're selecting your people in your mastermind group, is it beneficial to be aware of how along the line of self-development or self-awareness someone is? Because if you're hoping to have accountability or offer somebody a possible solution to issues that they might have, not everybody's in a position where they can accept that willingly. Does that become part of the something to consider?
Yeah, I actually, I think that's a great question. And first of all, I think it's probably worth thinking about what are you setting up the group to do? You know, going back to your thing, what is the purpose? So I think it's going to be slightly different depending on the circumstances. But typically, I think what you'll see, and I'm going to give you an example in a minute of when you have a mastermind group, it's particularly who are already in some way on the journey of self-development. I would say in general, Andy. Let me come back to that in a minute. I just want to read a couple of things out here. Merle says, many times people just want to be heard, yeah, before you jump into solutions. Very, very true. I often say, I found this work really well for me. Maybe you can give it a try. Let me know it works for you. So again, there's another way of getting to that one. The last of the 10 for this part of the discussion is around leadership and facilitation. Now, this is an important one because even if the group doesn't have a single leader, it's important to have someone who at least can facilitate the discussions. And I think that's probably, again, for some people that comes quite easy, and for others it takes some work. But there are groups I've seen that they will actually share who takes the facilitation, so everybody gets a chance to hear different styles and actually starts to see, oh, I like the way the person does that. I probably would try something different or something like that. Jason says, trust thing sparked a memory of Stephen Covey's 13 Habits of Trust. Is a good way to build trust. And actually, you know, when you talk about Covey's traits of trust, one of the things that always sticks in my mind, he calls it the trust tax. So if you spend a long time waiting to decide if you're going to trust somebody, you can actually lose out along the way. So I'm hoping you've got these 10 down. I'm sure there are other things to be considering, but I just wanted to show you an interesting little example when I was thinking about this mastermind group. Jason, thanks a lot for staying. We'll catch you later. One of the things that occurred to me was, when have I seen a mastermind group work really well? And actually, well, let me go to this first. And I think we've probably discussed this to a degree, but so the question here is, how many are you already of these are you doing? If you were to look through that list that we've just talked about, how many are you doing? How many could you actually start to make happen now or in the immediate future? What's stopping you? And be honest with yourself. You know, it may be several different reasons why you haven't done it up to now. But even from what you've heard this morning, is there anybody who would consider taking that next step and building their own mastermind group as you move forward?
This is definitely something that I'm in the process of doing, but it is finding the actual purpose of what the group is going to be hoping to achieve, and then also how I would whittle down, if that's the right word, the participants, because I'm aware of the optimum number, which I'm sure you're going to get to in a while, and then making the people, maybe it's a negative way of saying it, making them jump through hoops so I know I've got the right people in the end. Is that a good way of looking at it, or not necessarily?
I think it's going to be different for different people. I don't think there's one way to do it. I am going to give you some kind of baseline ideas, Andy, which may answer some of these questions. But I think the fact that you're thinking about it is definitely a good step forward. Angela, you want to say something?
Yeah, I definitely want to set up a mastermind group around the principles of healthy living, I suppose, based on what I've learned in kinesiology. And what's stopping me is task management and competing priorities. I've got so much I want to do. And it's just how do I prioritize that, really, not only in my work life, but based on what I was saying about improving, being my best self, you know, what I want to do to support that as well. So task management is probably what's stopping me. Yeah, I've got too many things that I want to do. That's the issue.
Okay.
But yeah, this is definitely one of them.
Excellent. Anybody else want to chip in? So I tell you, I'm going to show you something. When I was thinking through what I've been doing over the last God knows how many years, this is actually the youngest mastermind group I ever had the privilege of working with and being part of. This is actually a school in Houston, Texas, and this picture is probably 10 years ago. And the reason I know that is because the young lady with her back to us, with the plaits, who's got strengths on the back of a t-shirt, is called Sari Abasab, and she's the one who just got into Rice University on a full ride scholarship. So it's about 10 years. And every school that we've worked with basically would come up with what they'd call e-color champions, which each one of these kids are. In terms of the facilitator, the lady in the red, and she is top color red, Diana Cavazos, she was the one who was determined to help the e-colors become more embedded in this particular school. And they would meet every week. Now, you talk about all that list that we just went through. They were all accountable, not only to get good results, never to be late for school, never to be taken to the principal for bad behavior, and actually signed performance contracts at about 8, 9 years old. And it worked like a dream. I could actually take you around this group now and tell you what they're all doing today. Quite fascinating. So, and they, by the way, were mastermind. They were the ones who took the e-colors into their own school classrooms and taught the rest of the kids. And so when you think about this, it's not only the people that you're surrounded with today immediately, but maybe the people you can impact as well. Angela, I see you've got your hand back up again. Anything? Or is that from before?
Sorry, it's a legacy hand. But yeah, just a late hand that I haven't lowered. That's an NHS speak, that one. Yeah, I just think it's absolutely fabulous. I love the idea of working with children, having had 4 of my own, and I think that goes of all ages, really. You know, they're never too young to learn, are they?
No. And here's the other thing, for what it's worth, they are not politically correct. So, you know, whatever's on their head, that's what comes out of the mouth. So you can actually learn a heck of a lot from them. But again, it's all worth thinking about. So one of the things that I'm going to bring all these up together, and then we'll talk through them. So other things to consider. First one is group size, like Andy mentioned. Most people will tell you, and I'm sure somewhere in the Napoleon Hill book it probably tells you, 4 to 8 people is about the ideal size for a mastermind group. If it gets more than that, especially when you've got time considerations, because again, everybody's busy, everybody's got to do in their lives. If you want everybody to be participating, you really need to keep the groups small enough to where everybody's going to get a chance to speak up. And as you well know, you know, it happens every week in these calls. Some will speak up more than others. So Andy, going back to your thing, first thing is around 4 to 8 people. If anybody's got any different experiences, you know, happy to learn. The next one is meeting structure. So creating this consistent meeting structure that allows people to speak up and participate. So again, these are all the kind of ground rules you can set up when you're actually having the meeting. Frequency of meetings, you know, setting a regular schedule. There are some people who will maybe not be able to make it every week or every 2 weeks or every month, however you want to do it. But the thing is to keep a very kind of coordinated arrangement around how often you're going to meet and how we're going to keep taking the things forward. Andy, I'm just going to read what it says here for you around the selecting the right members. Choosing the right people is critical to the success of your mastermind group. Look for individuals who, A, are motivated and goal-oriented, have a growth mindset, are open to both giving and receiving constructive feedback, share common values of complementary skills, but not necessarily the same goals or experiences. And you want a group where each member can learn from each other and offer valuable insights. Which again, if I go back to just my example with the kids, they all came from different backgrounds. Most of them were actually of different nationalities. So the ability to be able to learn as we were going was quite phenomenal. And again, if you only got to look on, if you were to reduce the amount of people on this call, you would see very quickly there's so many different backgrounds, etc., etc. Effective communication is number 5. It's got to be clear, the communication. It's got to be open, and it really needs to be respectful for sure. Confidentiality is another one. You know, whatever says in the group stays in the group. The last thing you want is, you know, somebody passing on, because once the group gets comfortable with each other, there's a very good chance that people will actually start to, you know, come out behind the mask, as they say, and that's worth understanding. And basically, again, I'll leave you the list up for a minute. I think handling conflict effectively is going to be important. And again, once the mastermind group has got comfortable with each other, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that there's going to be conflict. Just handling that in a professional way, using the e-collar structure is a very good way to do that. And also celebrating success. You know, the group will be moving forward, helping each other to move forward. Very important to recognize those moments. Angela, is this a legacy thing or a new one?
No, this is a new one. I was going to ask about number 9 again, mutual growth. So I've written a couple of questions for the group in the chat actually, but then I haven't posted it. Do the group think it's important to agree actions at the end of the meeting, or, you know, how do you measure success or the outcomes of the group? You know, how do you know when you've achieved what you set out to do? And is that a different type of group? Because there's different ways of holding meetings and groups, aren't there? You know, I quite like the fact that the groups that I belong to, we don't have to do things, we don't have to agree to do things, because that allows for creative freedom to just have the headspace to talk about things. So I just wondered how you sort of define a mastermind group, really, and whether that's important. Otherwise, how do you know that you're progressing?
I think it's a very good point. Paul, I'm going to defer to you just for what you've seen so far in the Money Remix group, or if there's anybody on the call who's in that group, maybe you could share.
Yeah, I think if I share from my own position, by having these calls every Friday, it really allows me to focus on some of the important things about Money Remixed, you know, and ensuring that I'm using them consistently. You know, even just things like your vision, your purpose, your goals, your ethics, all these types of issues. As we go through the Money Remixed book, then it helps to flag the items that you really need. You either haven't been paying attention, or you need to pay more attention on. That's how I sort of gauge how successful the meeting is for me personally.
So I guess you have a structure, and that structure therefore helps you to identify what the outcomes might be for each individual in the group. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, so if you take, for example, in every meeting, we throw up the contents of the book, and we're just working through that contents piece by piece.
Paul, hold on. I'm just going to jump out just to answer Andrew's question. I've actually got an example here for you, Paul. So this is straight from your slides, right? So
yeah. So this was so we've had 6 sessions on the Money Remix Mastermind group, and this was one of the sessions where we focused on goals. So just, even by having that structure, you can work through the important parts of what comes out of the goals. It's discussed around the group, and then in between these sessions, we can also post things on the WhatsApp group, things that we think might be add value for other people. Sharing different clips and such like that we think might add value for people. I don't know.
Thanks, Paul.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does answer my question. It's just a very different way of holding a meeting that I've been used to in the NHS in a way, because we always went over the actions that we'd all agreed, so it's much more formal. Whereas this, you've got a structure, so you know what the outcome of the meeting is going to be, and then it's reinforced by the WhatsApp group afterwards. So yeah, thank you. It was just posing a question, really. Yeah.
Yeah. So we offered the Money Remix Mastermind group, following the last time Mark presented these slides about the Mastermind group, and we initially limited it to 6 participants plus Mark and myself, but we extended it to 7. So that's whereby we have a group of 9 people, and all the people came from these leadership sessions. This is where we offered the Mastermind group to people. I would say out of those 6 sessions, we've had around about 90 to 100% attendance on those various sessions. And again, they're at a set time, 8 a.m. every Friday. The last 45 minutes, sometimes they stretch out to an hour. So really the purpose was to help each other to grow their financial wealth. And the common goal was to discuss the contents of Money Remixed to stimulate this. So if you look at the qualities that Lewis previously showed, there was sort of 10 qualities, and you could sort of highlight on sort of 5 of those immediately. So for example, in trust and openness, it was very much about listen to understand and then seek to be understood. On commitment, it's about sharing your experiences, sharing feedback, using the WhatsApp group, and again, to help people where needed. Clear purposes and goals, as I've said, we set out some clear purposes and goals. Diversity of thought, important really to manage your e-colors rather than selecting people based on their e-colors for the group, because that's something we don't have as part of our ethics for use of the e-colors. So again, it's very much managing your own e-colors. And then accountability, it's really sharing some book content in advance to really stimulate the discussions for the next session, and then using the WhatsApp group to share and discuss, and also to follow through with any promises that you make.
Excellent. Thank you, Paul. So I think actually, Paul, you just answered another one of the questions, which was around how long should the session take. So you're doing 45 minutes?
Yeah, it's 45 minutes, but sometimes it stretches to the hour, but 45 minutes is the target. Okay, excellent. And then there's a couple more things at the end which are worth thinking about. And there's nothing wrong with making sure there's an exit strategy. You will find it's a bit like people who are mentoring. There comes a point where people will think they're either outgrown or they're just ready to move on, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you maintain the principles of the mastermind group, then by that time, typically you might want to get some other people to come in. But they do say that, probably around 6 months is the typical duration of a group that are focused on a particular thing that they want to get a good outcome from. So that is a little bit of an overview around this wonderful idea of mastermind groups. And again, really encourage you to be thinking about, if you were to have one, who would you have in your group? And as Angela was pointing out, what would be the actual purpose, as was stated there. So with that, I just want to very quickly share with you all, thank you, as always. And to let you know again, if Mark hadn't already mentioned it, on the 24th of June, all being well, Personalities Remixed, which is a book that Mark, Paul, and myself put a lot of effort into, to really talk a little bit about
the history and the growth and future and understanding around personalities. And I can tell you, I was actually talking to somebody last night and was telling them we've got over 60 people who've contributed their anecdotes, stories, etc., along with some pretty amazing forwards, actually. And I think it's fair to say that as practitioners, this is an absolute must, because you will be able to do a lot of work in the future built off what's in this book. Paul, would you like to add anything onto that before I move on?
No, no. Again, you'll see a lot of the social media posts coming out over the next few weeks, and yeah, we're looking forward to getting some feedback from people on the book.
Excellent. So with that, we're right on the hour. Is there anybody who'd like to share anything before we call it a day?
I'll just add very quickly, as a member of the mastermind group for the Money Remixed, it's so much more than a book club, as it were, and having someone like with Paul's expertise at the helm to share his experience that we've all already taken in so much wonderful knowledge, and a lot of us have implemented a lot of things already that possibly we wouldn't have previously. So really great, and I'm looking forward to getting my own mastermind group up and running as well. So thank you all.
Excellent. Anybody else got anything they'd like to share?
Certainly for me, just thanks very much. It was a brilliant session. So thank you everybody for having my back.
Yeah, that's what we're here for, Scott. Excellent. Thank you. Merle, thank you for getting up in the middle of the night, or not getting up, or whichever way you did it.
Well,
I hope it's valuable for you.
Worth getting up for, Lewis. Thanks for everything. At least I'll make it to the gym on time this morning now.
There you go. There you go. And well, we'll talk later this week.
Sounds good, Lewis. Thank you.
Excellent. Anybody else like to say anything? Britt Lee, you got anything? No? Jane? No? Oh, am I missing here? Okay. Well, in which case, Jovita, as always, thank you for setting everything up. Much appreciated. And I'm sure you'll be sharing the recording. All the best, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.